Good afternoon, everyone. Mayong hapon Siliman. And welcome again to day 4 of our series of webinars. Allow me to just share my screen first. And allow me to make sure that I will share to you computer sound. Okay, I think I'm good to go. So welcome to Designing Performance-Based Assessment, Part 3. To those who have been attending the webinar since day 1, they'll know very well why this is Part 3, because we have had Parts 1 and 2 in the previous days. And we had to do it that way so as not to overload you, my fellow educators in Silliman, with a lot of matter that may not anymore be digested or processed and appreciated in that. So today I'm going to share with you just very briefly. I think there are just about 32 or 33 slides this afternoon, but that does not mean it's of less importance, the things we're going to talk about today. So we're going to have the last chunk of what makes, or how we design rather, performance-based assessments, okay? So we've been talking recently about how to design performance-based assessments or performance tasks that develop lifelong learners who are globally competitive. And I think we have had a lot of discoveries, realizations, or learnings, or unlearnings, or relearnings when we realize that performance tasks must be standards-based. That means aligned with the transfer goal and performance standard. And we did have some samples to prove how performance-based assessments can really be aligned with standards, or as cited earlier on by Dr. Viola, even with e-portfolios, we make sure that the outcomes must be aligned with the intended learning objectives, or the ILOs, or intended learning outcomes rather, okay? So that's the same thing with performance tasks, aligned with the transfer goal and the performance standard. Now, we also discovered a lot of aha when we realized that there is a certain format to use when we design performance tasks, and it's the simple format GRASPs, where there is goal rather, why students must do the activity or must perform the task, where there's role that they have to assume. Then there's a real world audience, real world situation. Then there's product and the performance. And then there's of course the standards, which means the basis of designing the criteria for scoring their performance or their product. And then we went into discovering that performance tasks may also need to be differentiated to accommodate different learning styles or learners' preparedness, or in terms of content or in terms of process, for as long as the outcome or the output again aligns with the standard or the expected learning outcomes, okay? And then it was yesterday when we found out more on what makes a performance task good. And that is when we integrate the 7 C's into these tasks. The 7 C's of critical thinking and doing, communication, collaboration, cross-cultural understanding, ICT or computer literacy, career and learning self-reliance. And of course, the very core of them all is creativity, when students can create something out of the skills, the knowledge they have accumulated, and the skills they have acquired or mastered from the different subjects, okay? And so, hold on a bit. I'm gonna move my screen. So we ask ourselves, so how can we embed these 7 C's in our performance tasks? And I did show you an example yesterday, and you were all telling me that with that performance task, sir, I can name 3 of the 7 C's that are embedded or that are integrated into that task. Or others even said 4 or 5, or 1 or 2 among you even made a realization that, oh, all the 7 are actually there, okay? And that was really like a boost on my part, because it's highly encouraging, those remarks. And indeed, We can design performance tasks in any way we can, in any creative way we can, as well as teachers, just for us to be able to accommodate the 7Cs or integrate the 7Cs so as our learners can develop these 7Cs and make themselves ready for life, for learning, and of course for career later on. Okay, and so before we proceed, I think at this point in time, why don't we try to pause for a while and reflect that with all our efforts on designing and our creativity on designing performance tasks that have really become engaging for our learners, have we really succeeded in our goal? Have we really walked them through and guided them through? Have all our efforts paid off in preparing our students to be career ready or life ready? Or at the very least at that for now, have all our efforts paid off in preparing them to be college ready? That is always the question that I need to ask myself as a basic education teacher in the junior high school level. And so, you know, since I really wanted to find out some answers to these questions, have I really prepared my students to be, at least at the very least for now, college ready, and eventually career and life ready? You know, it was just like a chat away that 6 or 7 of my former students way back in high school responded and wanted to share with us today their thoughts about how their performance tasks way back in high school prepared them to be where they are now. I hope you will spend some time listening to their stories. Here they are.
Hello, my name is Hernani de Malanza, and I was a student of Silliman University Junior High School, class of 2018. So back in my junior high school days, on a daily basis,
especially in junior high,
learn things from our teachers, from the lessons of our teachers, and some from the books. But the performance tasks that were given to us gave us an opportunity to learn from one another. And what I mean by that is that I was able to learn something from my group mates was able to learn something from me, our group was able to learn something from the other groups, and the other groups was able to learn something from us as well. And there was always, a high level of confidence every time a performance task was given to us, but at the same time, I was able to find a sense of camaraderie among the class, and I believe it has prepared me well, especially for the world that I'm in right now. And additionally, with the type of character that I was able to build from those types of tasks, it made it casual for me to fit in on a new different place with a new different cultures, and as well as cooperating with new different people with new different beliefs. And I just believe it has molded me into that type of individual, not just in college and work, but as well as in other areas of my life. Thank you for listening.
During my time in junior high, I would never have guessed that the training and lessons I received would be extremely useful in senior high and even in college and employment later on. Before, I was always just thinking that I'm just doing it for the grade or just to pass. However, when I arrived at senior high, I quickly realized how much easier things were thanks to the training and lessons in junior high, especially the performance tasks. The performance tasks like those speeches and essays we had to write, videos we had to make, and even the writing of a research paper and many more really helped me grow mentally and physically. Because I had been exposed to these tasks, I had already known the basics of what needed to be done in the kinds of schoolwork and projects we do in senior high and even in college in the near future. These performance tasks aren't merely just tasks that we do for the grade, but it trains us for life. I have heard many stories of college life and employment wherein the exact same skills we learned in junior high are exactly what we needed, except maybe just on a higher level, which is to be expected, of course. What's important is that these performance tasks have taught us the basic skills that we need and have trained our minds to think critically in order to face our future careers.
Performance tasks, especially in junior high school, were really the only platform or avenue in which students could be creative and combine things like how they want to express themselves and their passions and advocacies with things. They can combine those notions with notions of success, because in junior high school you're always told that follow instructions clearly and correctly, fill out the correct answers. But with performance tasks, you're given the leeway and the freedom and the creativity to define your own success. And especially in applying for colleges and employment later on, it is very important to have these kinds of skills and to have that kind of mindset that what you want to do is something that can lead to success as long as you are willing to put in the work for it. There is no other kind of activity like performance tasks, because you can fill out tests and whatnot, but performance tasks are really what prepare you for what happens in real life, where you have to find your own strengths, your own weaknesses, what you want to focus on and advocate for, and how to initiate those things, and how to do it without a directive from someone else.
During my
The
time
4
in
years
junior
of
high,
junior high school is an incredibly crucial stage in a student's life. It is a transition from being treated and considered as a child to being prepared for adulthood. Along with the natural, emotional, and physical progresses such as hormones and growth spurts, we had to adapt to the mental challenges and pressures that made us realize, we needed to be a little bit more serious then. Sure, of course, we could still have fun, but there's a lot more responsibilities that we had to shoulder, and early then, we were already slapped with the truth that it's going to be a lot tougher in college. That was great, I think, because the transition was made a lot easier and so much better by the fact that you're not alone. Your classmates and groupmates are going through the same things you're going through, so you lift and encourage each other up. The performance tasks we did was to discover our strengths and weaknesses both as an individual and as a team, which helped us realize what to work on ourselves with. By then, we weren't scared of what we're going to face in college. The transition has shaped and molded us into different students, and somehow a little bit more aware of the world and how it works. And we're prepared for it.
My life in junior high school was one of the best 4 years of my life. I look back and I am able to imagine and relive the memories, the moments, the laughters I shared. Junior high is a training ground for senior high and college, and I'd like to believe that because the activities, especially the performance tasks that happen in junior high, will shape you to become a better student, just like me. When I look back at those activities, during performance tasks, it's a big chunk of your grade. You deal with a lot of different attitudes because you have a lot of different classmates from different backgrounds, and you learn how to manage time. And time management is very important when you reach the tertiary level, especially when you'll be bombarded with a lot of subjects. Time management is the key. Also, performance tasks, you have to do good because it's a big chunk of your grade again, and you'd like to, have a big grade. So when you put a lot of effort into it and in the end you succeed, there will be a sense of self-fulfillment, and that self-fulfillment is something that cannot be bought. You fulfill what you want, and especially those around you would commend you for doing so much, putting so much effort and showing so much passion in what you do, especially when you win. an activity or when you get a high score in a performance task, that is something that you will cherish forever. And when you reach a tertiary level, you're gonna deal with different people, different attitudes, and you have to learn how to manage your time. And of course, just like in performance task, you have to put a lot of effort and passion into what you do, especially the course you choose. You put a lot of passion, effort, and time. If you have time management, you have passion, and you know how to put into effort, into the things you do, you will survive college and senior high, and probably you'd graduate with flying colors. So, with that being said, I'd like to believe again that junior high school is a very vital part of being a good student when you reach the tertiary level.
My name is Enrica Dinopol and I'm an alumni of Silliman University Junior High School. I was recently asked how my performance tasks back in junior high affected my current goals in life and my future plans. As a student, I really feel that it is important that we have the ability to collaborate with our peers, that we can reach out to the community, and that we can work with oneself to become a better individual. The SUJHS performance tasks did exactly that for me. There were so many performance tasks per quarter that it really shaped me to be a better person for the society today, and an overall better student. May it be an advocacy video that I did in my grade 9 English class that helped me gain more confidence, or even a collaborative math project that helped me interact with my fellow peers. My personal favorite would have to be doing research, because this performance task really made my subjects easier in senior high. And there is so much more that I still continue to apply in my daily life because of those projects and performance tasks back in junior high. The different subject areas PTs were very hands-on, applicable and relevant in the situations that I have faced after my junior high years. And I believe that it's a benefit for many students because it gives them an avenue to apply their learnings into a whole different aspect.
Hi, I'm Julie Villegas. I'm an incoming first-year student of the College of Physical Therapy. And the question is, how did the performances in junior high school help prepare me for college and employment further on? I can say that it helped me because it allowed me to work with other people, and in work or in college in future, there will be assignments that you would have to do with other people, and there are times where these other people are not super cooperative or they're not to your liking, and the performance tasks in junior high school help sharpen the act of cooperation and understanding other people, being open to other ideas, because you're never going to be on the same boat once you're in a group together. So yeah, it really prepared me in a way that it allowed me to really open up to other people, really work under pressure with other people, understanding, cooperating, and really how it brings a group together to work for a deadline and to really push harder and to achieve the goal.
So when Sir Caballo asked me how junior high school performance tasks prepared me for senior high school and college, what first came into mind were our performances as a class. You see, based on experience, SUJH as students and graduates usually have an edge when it comes to collaborative work, because I guess this is merely because we weren't only limited to learning within the four walls of the classroom, but we were also given the chance to really collaborate and exchange ideas with each other to come up with one output. Yes, it was indeed challenging, very, very challenging at first, with all the debates and dramas among ourselves, and even like the discoveries and denials of our strengths and weaknesses. But eventually, this enabled us to really maximize our individual capacities and to master various techniques as to how to work efficiently with others. But not only that, because it has also developed within us a sense of integrity, competence, and leadership. So, yeah, although class outputs are put to a minimum, like they're more of group outputs as we enter senior high school and college, still the methods and the competencies will always be there since I guess junior high school was mainly process based, which I really think is the most beneficial because, yeah, it wasn't really about the output, it was more of the process that greatly helped.
All right. So, having heard some of my former students share with us today their thoughts, their realizations about how their performance tasks way back in high school helped them or prepare themselves for college and eventually for employment later on, I feel that somehow we did not fail them along the way. But at the same time, I feel how much more should be done. Not only that the 7Cs be developed among them, but because our discussion on how to design performance tasks should not end on number 4, because we still have to talk about other aspects about the performance task. The next one we're going to talk about is how to make performance tasks authentic. Okay, performance tasks can be either simulated authentic or actual authentic. And so I hope that by the end of our short discussion this afternoon, we all can go home and each of us can confidently say that I can explain again the nature and characteristics of performance-based assessments. I can discuss the nature of authentic performance-based assessments. I can discuss the nature of interdisciplined or integrated performance-based assessments or tasks. I can design simulated authentic and actual authentic performance-based assessments or tasks, and I can integrate performance-based assessments with other disciplines or learning areas. Now, before I proceed, I am not sure anymore if you still see me on your screens because I think somewhere along the way, a while ago when those videos were playing, I have messed up the flow. It was not the way I rehearsed a while back or earlier on. Anyway, whether you see me or not on your screen, I think you can hear me loud and clear. And so, first, before we proceed, we need to ask ourselves, what are authentic performance tasks? Okay, so according to one expert in education, I would call this guy one authority in education, Wiggins. Authentic performance tasks are those that are engaging and worthy problems or questions of importance, in which students must use knowledge to fashion performances effectively and creatively. The tasks are either replicas of or analogous to the kinds of problems faced by adult citizens and consumers or professionals in the field. That's according to Wiggins. But John Mueller has a simpler definition of authentic performance tasks when he said, an authentic performance task is a form of assessment in which students are asked to perform real-world tasks that demonstrate meaningful application of essential knowledge and skills. Now, to explain what authentic performance tasks are further, I'd like to use again an example. Here is an example of a performance task for English grade 10. Okay, so this is quarter 4 English. Again, just would like to show to you that performance tasks must be aligned with standards. So here is the performance standard for quarter 4 English 10. The learner competently presents a research report on a relevant social-cultural issue. And as a designer of teaching or of learning, we must design now, in the context again, particularly of junior high school, we now must design the transfer goal based on the performance standard. And it'll be something like the students on their own and in the long run will be able to produce comprehensive research reports that can be used for the advocacy of and campaign for relevant socio-cultural issues. If you still remember, there are three elements of a transfer goal. The one is the most encompassing or the most important verb, and that is, in this case, produce. Well, to produce though is not a verb, but let's say take the word produce per se as a verb. So it's the highest order or the most encompassing verb in this case. And what is the expected product? The comprehensive research reports. Why? What for? What's the real world purpose? The real purpose is so that this can be used for the advocacy of and campaign for relevant socio-cultural issues. So given this performance standard and this transfer goal, we can now design a product to this effect. Let's read. Persons with disabilities usually experience difficulty in finding a job. Research about the different types of disabilities. Present the result of your research to your classmates. My question is, do you find this product authentic? Is this an authentic product? Can we spend a minute or two just to share our thoughts whether or not this sample of a product or performance or a product rather is authentic or not? I'd like to hear your thoughts. You may use your microphones, please, or you may actually use the chat box, and I can't find the chat box right here. Could I ask for help from one of the men and women, one of my friends from Seoul, while we are waiting for some of our participants to interact. Do you think this is an authentic product? Okay, if you say it's yes, why? And if you say it's no, why don't you think this is an authentic product? I'm trying to look for the, okay, I really can't seem to find it. Here we go. Oh. Anyone among our participants? Is this an authentic product? Is Alfie around? I probably would need some help here. I am trying to look into the chat box and I can't find it from my screen. I think I have messed up something a while back when I was trying to play the videos. All right. So anyone? Okay. I think we'll just probably proceed. Okay. So is this an authentic product? Well, yeah, one moment. I can't find my chat box. Alfie is here trying to help. Maybe this? This one? Yeah. I can't find my camera. It's supposed to appear here, right?
Yeah.
Hold on, my apologies for the technical flaw. Oh. So supposed to be my. Okay, here we go. Okay. Okay. This one. Okay, finally. So here is a comment from Sir Saiflor Putong. And no, should research about PWD's experience in job hunting. Okay? So that's according to Sir. So according to Ma'am Reese Montesilio, maybe the research could be more specific, say research about the different disabilities and the difficulties in job hunting, all right? That's possible, okay? Anyone else? Okay, so I think we must have made others wait for quite some time already. Okay, we'll move on. So is this an authentic product? Okay, for us to be able to answer whether or not this is an authentic product, let's try to look at the definition of authentic product again. So I think sometimes we may better understand what something is by finding out what it isn't. Okay, and so let's talk about when a product is not authentic. So we'll better understand when it becomes authentic. It is not authentic when it does not resemble any real world activity. Second, it is not authentic product again if there is no public audience involved that the project may address. Okay? It is also not authentic performance or product if there is no intended effect on one's community or product to be used by one's community. However, it is simulated, and it is called simulated authentic when the product uses a scenario or the performance task uses a scenario with given roles for students to accomplish. It is also considered simulated authentic when there is a scenario that is similar to a real-world activity. It is also simulated authentic when it involves a public audience that exists in the real world, but face-to-face interaction with them does not happen or is not possible, most especially during this time of, the pandemic. And so another thing that makes a product simulated authentic is when it may not be actually used by the community, but it's the kind of product that is done by people in the scenario. But any product can be considered actual authentic when, first, it involves actual events and people and issues in one's community. So there are real world events, real life people and issues. Next, it is actual authentic when it involves a public audience that exists in the real world and face-to-face interactions occur. I'm sure many of our college students are exposed to this kind of tasks when they are in the real world or face-to-face interactions with their clienteles or their beneficiaries of their program happen or can occur. And then it is also actual authentic when product is actually used by real people in the community and provides some concrete benefit to the community. And so if we go back to our example, persons with disabilities usually experience difficulty in finding a job. Research about the different types of disabilities and then present the result of your research to your classmates. So then this is clearly a product that is not authentic, as the task does not meet the expectations of those that make simulated authentic and actual authentic. But the question now is, how can this be converted into an authentic product? How can this be converted into an authentic product? So anything like this may become an authentic product for as long as it meets the following elements, like, is there a problem question? What is the problem question that needs to be addressed? Is there a real need? Like, when you say there's a real need, you ask yourself as the designer of the task or the product, what is a real need related to the performance standard? And what is the product that real people will experience? So if there is a real need for something, for this particular useful product that as the result of the task or the performance task or the performance-based assessment, who will be the expected real audience to benefit from the real need, from the useful product, okay? Who will benefit from when this particular problem question has been addressed? There should be a real audience, there should be a real situation, and there should be real world tools or processes that learners or students can engage themselves in so as to address the problem question, to address the real need, and to address the real audience and whatnot, okay? So again, So there has to be those elements so that any product can become authentic, whether simulated or actual. Here's an improved, shall I say, version of that sample a while ago. Persons with disabilities, according to the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, include those who have long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairments which in interaction with various barriers may hinder their full and effective participation in society on an equal basis with others. As the Director of Public Employment Service Office, you will conduct research to provide sustainable livelihood programs for PWDs. I guess this was one of the points raised earlier on, that there should be a specific purpose or goal for the research. To provide sustainable livelihood programs for PWDs. The presentation of the result of your research and the livelihood program is intended for your colleagues and the local government officials. Your socio-cultural research should be relevant, accurate, well-organized, and effective. If you were reading along with me, you would probably have sensed that this particular task has the elements of grasps now, which clearly means that aside from the elements I mentioned earlier on for actual and simulated authentic tasks, grasps can also be another way to assure that we arrive at designing authentic performance tasks. Now, why is this a simulated authentic task? Okay, I think if you are reading along with me, you will realize that there's a real world need, and that need is to address the concerns of probably the rights of PWDs, their rights to have a perfect place and an equal opportunity with others in this planet. Okay, so there's a real world tool, and that's the research, the need analysis and the research. And if you will walk through again all those elements again, which I'd like to go back to a bit, you will find that all of these are mentioned there, except that in this case, there is not probably a real audience. Okay, there is not a real audience because it just simply says the presentation of the result of your research and the livelihood program is intended for your colleagues and the local government officials. Okay, so this is an example of a simulated authentic task. Okay, now, can this possibly be improved better or leveled up to become an authentic or an actual authentic task or product? Let's take a look. Again, let me read. Physical disability should never be a hindrance for a person to be productive. PWDs have the rights to work and support for their respective families. However, in a certain community, there has been an ongoing problem regarding PWDs not being able to enjoy this right. As an advocate, you are tasked to conduct needs analysis and to research about the factors affecting the problem in the community. As a result of the research, you need to make an advocacy campaign proposing various livelihood project ideas to help the PWDs in the community choose what is best for them. Because I think I have messed up along the way. You need to visit the barangay hall, not to claim the 25 kilos rice, okay? But to schedule a date for your research presentation. The advocacy campaign or proposal must be relevant, accurate, well-organized, and effective. So this is now an actual authentic because we have added one more feature, and that is the physical visit to the barangay hall, which unfortunately we cannot yet be permitted to do at the moment, right? But this clearly demonstrates to you what makes a product or a task actual authentic, okay? When there is actual physical visit to the barangay hall to schedule a date for the research presentation, and even visit the barangay and gather, after the schedule has been set, gather people of the locality and listen to the research presentation, okay? So I think I have given you an example of a performance task or a product that progresses from non-authentic to simulated authentic and now to actual authentic. So I hope that you will seriously consider all those elements mentioned earlier on. So again, an authentic performance task is either simulated or actual. There's one more. Perhaps this is going to be the last thing we're going to talk about, characteristics of a performance task, and that is interdisciplined or intersubject, meaning a performance task may be integrated with other learning areas. Let's take a look at this example of a performance task again. And it says, in response to human rights situation in the Philippines, the Commission on Human Rights funded a research project to address and resolve some of the socio-cultural issues related to human rights. Your group, which is composed of researchers, is tasked to write a comprehensive research and present it to government policy makers. The members of the group will assume varied roles to complete the study. Your socio-cultural research should be purposive, relevant, accurate, and effective. Now, if you're carefully reading along with me, you'll realize that there is the goal, and I think that it's represented by the colors that appear on your screen. I don't have to walk you through again individually the goal, the role, and all. The role is there, the audience is there, the situation, the product, and the standard. But my question is this an authentic performance task? Yes, it is. But this is only simulated authentic, since it simply says write a comprehensive research and present it to government policy makers. There is not a mention of a physical visit or a physical, gathering of people that becomes the audience to whom the product is to be presented. But can this performance task be a product? Can this become an integrated performance task? Can this be, yes, sorry, here we go. All right, I'm highlighting the grasps, okay. Yes, as I asked you a while ago, can this become an intersubject product or performance task? Yes, take a look at this improved version of that performance task. In response to the human rights situation in the Philippines, the CHR funded a research project to address and resolve some of the socio-cultural issues related to human rights. As a researcher, you're assigned to write a comprehensive research and present it to government policy makers. You need to visit the city hall now. That makes it sound very authentic, when there is a mention of you need to visit the city hall to schedule a date for your presentation. Your social cultural research should have purpose or position statement, persuasion and coherence, accuracy of data and analysis, and practicality of recommendations. Now, since this is a research that they're going to do and present, then this must require a lot of work, a lot of hard work. And so it is very much possible that this can be made an integrated product or performance task of 3 possible disciplines. For instance, this can be integrated product with social studies. Why is that so? Because perhaps chapter 1 of the study has all the principles, the theories that the students may have discussed in their social studies classes. And this can possibly be an integrated subject or performance task or product with science, in as much as chapter 2 deals with the methodologies or the scientific procedures, okay? And of course, math also can come in, because chapter 3 will require students to gather data, to analyze data, gather statistics, interpret data and all. But please take note that chapters may vary depending on the research format being adopted, as it is stated there. So this is just a simple example of how we can actually do an integrated performance task. But do you still remember this example I gave you yesterday? The English 9 quarter 3 performance task on one act play. Okay, I think you still do because you mentioned again that it has more or less all the 7 C's of 21st century skills. Okay, so I'd like to use the same example again today because this is actually an integrated performance task for English and Science grade 9. Okay, let me walk you through again the goal again. Show awareness and concern to universal societal issues and realities. Role, actors and actresses of a theater group. Audience, actual World Congress delegates. Situation, so this is how again I motivate the learners. You are part of a theater group that has been commissioned by no less than the United Nations rather, to produce a one-act play which would be staged during the annual World Congress. Play should reflect the theme connecting with the world, which highlights the alarming level of risks and dangers brought about by climate change and ways to address the problem. That's the situation. Now, how is it that we decided to make this an integrated performance task for 2 subjects, English and Science? Let's take a look at the performance standard for English quarter 3, grade 9 quarter 3. It says, the learner skillfully performs in one-act play through utilizing effective verbal and nonverbal strategies and ICT resources based on the following criteria: focus, voice, delivery, and dramatic conventions. Now, take a look at the performance standard for Science grade 9, quarter 3. The learners shall be able to participate in activities that reduce risks and lessen effects of climate change. Now, let's take a look at the transfer goal of English, for English. From the performance standard again, remember the 3 elements? Students will on their own write and stage a one-act play with a synopsis to express awareness and concern to societal issues and realities, particularly climate change. And by the way, I think I should mention that quarter 3 theme for English 9 is connecting to the world. And one way of connecting to the world is by becoming aware and concerned about societal issues and realities. For instance, climate change. And look at the transfer goal for Science. Students on their own and in the long run will be able to participate in activities that promote climate change awareness through a one-act play to reduce the risks and lessen the effects brought about by climate change. Now, so how was that we decided to do an integration? Because we found it a perfect opportunity for my students in English to demonstrate the mastery of their skills using the theme and using the particular issue on climate change. And Science teacher also realized that her students needed the skills developed by my learners in my class in order for these skills to become an avenue for them to express, to share to the world what they feel are ways to reduce risks and lessen the effects of climate change. It is for that reason that we decided to do an integrated performance task. Thus, this performance task again became integrated quarter 3 English and Science. Okay, so that's the result. But the question now is, when should integration be done, by the way? So in simple terms, integration can be done when content or performance standards show interrelation between or among disciplines, just like Science and English quarter 3. Integration may also be done when certain skills developed or mastered in one discipline may be used as a tool to demonstrate mastery of specific content of another discipline, just like a while ago when I mentioned how content learned in Science can be best expressed using the skills learned in English, and sticking to the same theme, of course, of connecting to the world. Then, integration can also be done when students need not go through one task after another, when efforts and creativity can just be merged to produce output of common goals. Okay? It's something like luuy kaayo ang mga estudyante. When they run from one room to another, from one venue to another, of an entire week of performance task week, just to satisfy the expectations of teachers. And as one student mentioned earlier on, it's really tough because in the grading system, as part of the RA 10533, performance task really has the biggest share, the lion's percentage. Lastly, integration may also be done when learners need to realize that the job they may pursue in the future will require them to put together skills from different disciplines. So, in other words, when they get themselves a job in the future, whatever that job is, it will surely demand them to put together, to synthesize all the skills learned in math, in science, in English, in values education, in TLE, and whatever other subjects there are. Again, integration should be done when learners need to realize that the job they may pursue in the future will require them to put together skills from different disciplines. Now, I said that this afternoon's presentation will just be brief, but to conclude our discussion on designing PTs, I'd like us all to watch a sample of a performance task my students did some years back. And it's very timely because some of the students that you will see in this video were the same students who spoke earlier on when they shared to you how their performance tasks way back in English as a whole or in general prepared them for college, senior high, for college, and eventually further on to life and to employment. Okay, so here's a sample of that performance task, because you might want to ask me, you have good design, sir. You have all those elements, you have all the graphs. What about the way students perform the task? Were they able to meet your expectations? I must admit that in some other cases, my students even went beyond my expectations, exceeded my expectations. Okay, so here is a perfect conclusion to our discussion for the last 3 days. Performance tasks and how they will prepare these tasks, how will they prepare learners for college, for life, and for employment. Please watch this. Before that, remember the performance standard is the basis for the design of the performance task. And it says, the learner transfers learning by composing short prose forms with appropriate and creative use of adverbs, conditionals, figurative language, delivering the same through an advocacy video with effective use of verbal and nonverbal strategies. From that performance standard, students on their own and in the long run will compose and deliver prose forms for an online advocacy video to demonstrate embracing diversity of race, culture, religion, and to show valuing others. And from the standard and transfer goal, here is the task. Goal, launch a campaign that promotes valuing others. By the way, this is English 9 Quarter 2 performance task. Role, advocates for embracing diversity and valuing others. Audience, netizens the world over. Situation, now here's how I again motivate them. You have been invited by the UNESCO or the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization to submit an online advocacy video to launch a campaign that promotes embracing diversity and valuing others. In fulfillment of the organization's purpose to contribute to peace and security by promoting international collaboration through educational, scientific, and cultural reforms in order to increase universal respect for justice, the rule of law, and human rights, along with fundamental freedom proclaimed in the United Nations Charter. The infomercial or the video must be an original concept of the group and must run an airtime of 1.5 to 3 minutes only. So the product or performance again is the online advocacy video, and how their work is going to be scored, it's mentioned in the standards. The advocacy video must be relevant to the theme, must have good organization, must employ verbal and nonverbal strategies, and must use literary devices and conditional statements. Here is that performance task.
Are we all born equal?
Yes, says the white man.
Yes!
Says the rich man. Yes, says the doctor.
If you had asked this question decades ago, the answer would be entirely different.
Women were forced to be just housewives.
African Americans were beaten and neglected because of the color of their skin.
Entire nationalities were insulted for their principles.
Religions were persecuted by other religions.
People with little wealth are treated as the scum of the earth.
People with different body sizes are swept aside for their unhealthy practices.
People whose health did not come up to standard were marginalized for their illnesses.
But isn't this reality one that isn't so different from today?
Science tells us that all human beings have the same qualitative makeup.
We all have the same reflexes, drives, powers of perception, and so on.
But why do we treat other people as less than human? Just because of these labels we've established amongst ourselves.
At the end of the day, we are one world.
A world that strives to prosper.
But how can we do that when we don't use all the resources that we have?
The world does not lack ideas, but lacks understanding.
If ideas come from a woman, we accept them because women are not just housewives, but humans capable of intelligence.
If ideas come from African Americans, we accept them. Because the darkness of one's skin does not darken the bright ideas of the human mind.
If ideas come from Muslims, we accept them, because the sin of one believer does not represent the entire religion.
If ideas come from people in poverty, we accept them, because being materially poor does not mean that you are poor in creativity.
If ideas come from plus-sized people, we accept them, because big ideas may come from big people.
Are we all born equal?
The answer is obviously yes.
And this equality cannot be deterred by moral or genetic discrimination.
Behind all these bodily aspects, the same minds and hearts power us through this life.
But the question is, if we want the world to move forward, will we look past the outer shells of each person and into their minds?
Or will we let these distractions keep us from discovering the best that we can be?
When I asked my students how they did that, simple, sir. A flashlight, a dark classroom, and then a simple application of the computer. That's why they said, forgive us, sir, for the technical flaws, editing, recording along the way. But truth be told, that group scored perfect because they exceeded my expectations as stated in the rubric for scoring, which we are going to talk about tomorrow, okay? And so with that, how can students again transfer their learning in a way that enables them to become lifelong learners and globally competitive? Again, the answer, it lies on how we design our performance tasks. Standards-based, written in grasps format, open-ended, 7 C's integrated, authentic, whether simulated or actual, and then of course, interdiscipline. Okay, with that, I hope that whatever you plan to do from now on, always remember what Alvin Toffler said, that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. May hapon, daghan kaayong salamat mga igsuon sa Silliman. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that was totally edifying, Sir Ren. Both topics are highly instructive and of course educational. Thank you for sharing your ideas with us this afternoon. And now, after listening to both speakers, let us now proceed with our open forum. This time, our speakers are very willing to answer our different type of questions regarding the topic. You can forward your questions to us via chat or just click the raise hand icon here in Zoom. Okay, so if you have questions regarding on the discussion this afternoon, you can actually type your question here in the chat box, or else you will just click the raise hand icon and the participants button.
Lapaman, I'd like to say something.
Okay.
Yeah. Sir Caballo.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Congratulations for that wonderful presentation.
Salamat, ma'am. Thank you.
The term performance task, if we simplify that, what would be the equivalent term for that being used by college professors?
Well, are you asking me, ma'am?
Yes,
You're
I'm asking you.
Yeah,
Is there a synonym for that? Simple term.
Actually, when I gave a more or less similar talk to the faculty of our neighboring Oriental State University, and I found out that they're using the term performance-based assessment. Performance-based assessment, okay? And, or the same, performance tasks. And when I also had a chance to deliver same, more or less same talk to the faculty also of Central Bicol State University of Agriculture, I think they were also using the term performance-based assessment. Yes.
Okay. Or just simply activities, right?
Yeah, maybe, but
very
activity,
broad. It's just that it's very broad. Student
yes,
activity, yeah.
And not all activities would necessarily be performed in a manner it is expected to be a performance task. Okay, so that's why we don't usually, in all our trainings, we don't usually use the term activity, but maybe to set it apart from the other types of assessment. Normally, they're really called performance-based assessments. Yes, ma'am. But we can probably devise a term that could mean the same, right? In the context of Silliman education. But we can do it. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just wondering if college instructors and professors are really very familiar with this, given that we have been asked to design OBE syllabus or syllabi. And I wonder if they have been infusing such types of performance tasks or simply activities that will foster the 7 C's. Yeah, I'm actually asking any college teacher who might still be with us. Yes.
I am just suddenly reminded of something when you said that can we possibly call these activities. I think it can be understood that not all activities, all assessments are activities, right? But not all activities are assessments. So in as much as when we expect learners to do some activities, we don't have to grade them all the time for activities that they do, because who knows, these activities are just probably scaffolds or little tasks in preparation for the big task. Okay? So that's, now I suddenly remembered, because when you asked me that, maybe we can probably think of another term aside from activities to
That's
simplify
too broad,
it.
right? That's
Yes,
really
ma'am.
too broad, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
The reason why I asked this is that I was talking to some faculty this
Yes,
morning, and they said that they are not familiar with some terms that educationists use. For example, if we say summative exam or formative exam or assessment, that could not really be understood by a non-education graduate. So I think that we should like define them well. And, yeah. So I don't know what we can do that. So that's why when you were saying performance tasks,
Yes.
I don't know if this was part of the OBE sessions and workshops that they have been going through, that they underwent, I mean.
In the R810533 memo, the Enhanced Basic Education Act, the term uses really performance tasks. Okay. But I'm not anymore 100% sure if that is the same term that is espoused by OBE, because like I said, with my experiences of sharing the same topic to a few friends in other universities, they say that they normally call it performance-based assessments,
which is actually more accurate.
Yes, ma'am. More accurate. That's true. All right, so
I'm expecting some interactions from the
apparently
listeners.
we're the ones interacting with each other.
Kita ramay ga interaction. Actually, I also want, if there are no other questions from the participants, I was thinking about the performance tasks that you introduced. And probably if they're going to, I don't know, did your students post their product online?
Ma'am, no. No, that's why in that case, that would have been an example of simulated authentic. The video I showed earlier on, the last part?
Yes. Did they post that in a website,
Well, not according to my instruction, but I think some of the members of the group shared it on Facebook, but not as a requirement of the subject.
Yeah, I asked that because that would really complement my my presentation on e-portfolio.
E-portfolio, yes, that's true.
So that could be part of a student's e-portfolio. The video, the online.
Yes, ma'am. And as a matter of fact,
yes.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, a product like that can be possibly done or made by students now in this new modality, that they don't have to physically meet and do the video. They can just probably individually record themselves in their respective homes, and then somebody from the group will put them together and to come up with something like that I showed earlier on. So, yes, ma'am.
So maybe you can ask them, or you can create a gallery, an online gallery for other students to view the outputs. So that's the product. That's the product part of the e-portfolio that I presented. And I said there are two P's that you need to remember, that we need to remember when we create e-portfolios. One P is the product. In your case, for example, the online advocacy video. And then the other P is process. That's the part that says, what did I learn as a student? So when creating the video, what did they learn? This is the invisible part of learning, right? Because we don't know what they learned while putting up a video, because that's not, I think, part of the performance task. So
actually,
as I said, this is where e-portfolio as an assessment, alternative assessment tool comes in. So probably in their reflection sa process of learning nila, they can include what they really learned. Like, for example, stuff like I learned to manage my time because the deadline is there. I learned, for example, to be thrifty because I had to spend lots, or, like in your case, they only spend that much. So that's, and then they learn to be considerate with others, because it takes patience to come up with a video. And there are other learnings that we could uncover, right? So I'm just promoting, sir. I'm just promoting the e-portfolio as an alternative assessment.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, it is also a requirement, especially in our department, in the English department in junior high school, that every after performance task, we still spend a day or two to process the activity because that's the opportunity we give them to do values integration, to do valuing. We do have worksheets that are congruent to the activity, which will become the concluding activity of the quarter prior to moving on to the next quarter. So that's one thing that we also always don't fail to do when we do values integration from the activity, from the performance task particularly.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And the skills that they learned. Also,
Yes,
for
ma'am.
example, they probably learned some apps that are new to them. They
Yes, ma'am.
discovered that this is helpful to this and that. So what I'm saying is that I'm happy that our two topics,
Yes,
you know,
Or actually, yes, ma'am. There are
So,
some
yeah, sir.
comments from some of our participants this afternoon. There's something from Minerva, ma'am. Is Sir John, sir?
Yes, sir. It's actually in the chat box here.
Yes, sir.
We can find out the answers from coming from the questions of Dr. Viola a while ago.
Yes, sir.
In case of having performance tasks. So actually, in college department, they are of course incorporating this performance task and making it sure that those performance tasks are in line with the objectives, the learning objectives in their syllabus. So that was the answer of Ma'am Minerva in the PT department. Yes, and at the same time, we also have here Sir Ferdinand, and is always do the thing in line with the course objectives.
Sir Ferdy is also, actually, Sir John, Sir Ferdy is also a PAC trainer. And that is why I'm confident, and my good friend Ferdy does this thing. Okay. And I'm reading his message.
Okay, so it's really great to to have these topics in line, right, this afternoon. So I think everyone are knowledgeable enough to this concept of the topic this afternoon. Since they don't have any questions, then that means it was again indeed a very fruitful afternoon of this.
Sir John.
Yes.
Sir John, I posted around 2 links that the participants could check as samples of an e-portfolio. Makalingaw siya ng mga samples. Yeah, so I hope that they would click those links.
Okay, our attendees, you can actually visit the link posted in the chat box, posted by Dr. Viola Rose. This is actually very entertaining, according to her. Okay, so let's proceed. If you don't have question at this moment, we will have here a certificate for our the attendees. Allow me to read the certificate, the citation of the certificate. Silliman University presents this certificate of participation to all attendees this afternoon for his or her participation during the webinar series on the student assessment with the topics e-portfolio as an alternative online assessment, and of course, designing simulated and actual authentic performance tasks, which was held on July 22, 20, and 20 via Zoom online. Signed again, our very own Director of the Office for Instruction, Dr. Viola Rose Torres.
Thank you very much. So we still have one more. We still have one more tomorrow, and that will be the last.
Okay, so on screen we have here our link for the evaluation survey. We will be giving this link to our chat box to complete this survey after the webinar. Okay, and if you wish to have another, if you wish to have a copy on the video from the very first session of the webinar, you can actually copy this link on screen for our playlist regarding on the student assessment session from day 1 until today. So on screen is the link where you can find all the series of webinar in our YouTube playlist. Okay, to bring something again, a successful conclusion this afternoon, it was indeed a very great experience hearing words of experiences from our both speakers. And of course, again, I'll invite you tomorrow for another topic. For the same speaker, we have here assessing group work and at the same time, evaluating and scoring performance-based assessments with standard rubrics with the same speaker. Okay, if you don't have any more questions regarding on the discussion, again, I am John Saint Filado Palama, your moderator for this afternoon. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you.
Si Ma'am Bautista and Ma'am Christine Batiles have a request regarding the links, then maybe I can just send them.
Resend, yes.
Yeah, or resend. Or sa imo, Sir John, I think they're asking for the link of the past sessions.
Okay. They can actually visit it in the YouTube playlist, ma'am, to have the copy.